Hello everyone, welcome to another video of TCG Talk, back today with another deck tech video, one that I've been really excited to make as of recently, and that is the Blitz hero Ira. For anyone who's a brand new player and maybe you're just starting to get into the game and you're wanting to try out a new hero, an easy hero to learn, and someone that is competitive, Ira is the perfect place to start. Ira is known pretty much as like the Grim Reaper of Blitz from what it looks like. Even though I wasn't even playing back early at the beginning of the year, I look back at some of the tournaments that she was participating in and people that were playing her as the hero, and she just seemed to dominate the format of Blitz. And in my recent play of her, I've played probably, I don't know, 50 plus games with her. She seems extremely broken still, even against the new heroes like Oldheim and Lexi, and even I've played a couple of Briars. She doesn't struggle a whole ton. I would say out of all the heroes I've played, definitely has the highest win rate out of all of them. She just her ability and her play style naturally does well in the Blitz format, and she's someone that whether you're a new player, a seasoned player, someone that you can pick up and start winning games pretty early with. So we're gonna get right into the Blitz deck tech. Again, Ira's super simple ability. Her every second attack she does gains +1 attack. The key to Ira is there's two ways you can kind of play Ira. One popular way is kind of control Ira, who has a lot of defense reactions, a lot of ways to stall out her opponent while slowly chipping away with her Gadachi, slowly one by one by two, chipping away. And then you have the more like somewhat, I would say, aggressive Ira, or semi-aggressive Ira, which is kind of what I do, which you still have some defense reactions, as you can see here with Flick Flack, but you're also trying to hit your opponent pretty good on your turn as well, and maybe trying to put a little bit more pressure on them from turn to turn. So going into the equipment, pretty standard for Ninja. Breaking Scales, Heart and Cross Strap, and Snapdragon Scalers are all the common equipment for anyone, whether you're a new player or not, to get. The key of this deck for it to really run at its peak is Mask of Momentum. Mask of Momentum is a $100+ card right now. It's around 110, 120 bucks. So not everybody might have access to this, and if you don't, it's fine. It doesn't mean you can't run Ira. It just means that it's a little bit can't perform to its peak. But Mask Momentum allows you to draw a card on the third attack action that was the third or higher in a row to hit in that chain link. So if you Kadachi and they don't block, and then you get punched through an attack for the third one, then you draw a card, which is what makes Iris so good. Her first Kadachi that you normally pitch, so if you pitch a 0-cost card, your Kadachis get go again. First Kadachi normally goes, no one ever blocks the first Kadachi 999 times out of 1,000 for 1. Then the second Kadachi goes through for 2. Typically, you will see people block that second Kadachi because they know a third attack's coming and they want to prevent Mask of Momentum from triggering. So you're basically getting a card out of someone's hand with your weapon for free for the most part, for one resource, but that's it. And then you come in with a third strong attack and then try to string together attacks while you have card advantage. If you don't have Mask Momentum, my suggestion would be Hope Merchant's Hood. It's really good to kind of get out of drawing dead hands because it allows you to basically draw new cards with however many cards you put back into your deck from your hand. So like if you have 3 bad cards, you put 3 back into your deck, shuffle up your deck, and then draw 3 new ones. So it's really good if you kind of draw dead hands. Maybe you get out super unlucky and you draw 3 Flick Flacks, and you want to just kind of draw up a new hand. It's really good for that. You can't have sideboard cards in Blitz, but I put a couple in here just for you to think about, right? If you want to sub something out before you go to your event, your local armory event. I also put 3 pieces of equipment you can sub in. Findle Spring Tunic, a little bit hard to get. Not everybody has one. I honestly prefer Heart and Cross Strap over Findle Spring Tunic, and I'll tell you why here in a minute. But if you have Tunic, it's also really good, especially at the end. It gets a little grindy because you can get multiple resources as opposed to just the one time you pop this. I run 2 pieces of Null Rune for when I play like a Viserai or a Kano. Or even a Briar. I will, if I'm playing Kano, I'll run both pieces of Null Rune, so I'll swap out Breaking Scales and Heart and Cross Trap for 2 Null Rune. If I'm playing just Viserai, I'll probably just swap out my Breaking Scales because you only need 1 Arcane Barrier to help block the Rune Chant. But that's also what I bring with me as far as sub equipment. So 3 extra pieces of equipment. Getting right into the deck, again, super fun deck. I run 2 Flying Kicks. So a Flying Kick is a third attack or higher in the chain link. It doesn't even mean third to hit, just third period. It gets +2. So super easy. You Kadachi, and then you Flying Kick, and you're hitting for 7. So it's awesome. Also, if you want to do like maybe you have 2 blues in your hand with flying kick and like a leg tap, you can go Kodachi, leg tap for 5 because it gets the +1, and then flying kick for 7. So you're hitting a lot in a very short amount of time, and it does really well. It can put a lot of pressure on your opponent, and it also blocks for 3, which is really nice. Ancestral Empowerment, one of the best ninja attack reactions, right? It gives your attacks +1, and you draw a card off of it, which with Ira lets you continue to keep going and keep throwing attacks down to the opponent. Then you have Enlightened Strike. I like using Enlightened Strike. Again, this is a premium card. Everybody might not have it. If you don't, you can sub in something like a Pounding Gale, like 2 Pounding Gales. But I like to use Enlightened Strike because on the second attack, since it's 0 cost, you can use it with Snapdragon Scalers. So I will Kodachi for 1. Then I'll Enlighten Strike and give it +2, so it goes up to 7. And then it gets the +1 from Ira, so it goes up to 8. So my second attack is hitting for 8, and then I'll snap it and keep attacking. So because it's for 8 and people want to try to stop that mass trigger, either they'll fully block out, which is the wrong decision, or they'll chop block. You got a couple damage in, and you got probably 2 cards out of hand, and now you can try to come in with a third strong attack to help trigger that mask and really keep your turn going. So Enlightened Strike is one of the better premium cards you can put in this deck. I run a set of Flick Flacks. You want to have some defense reactions so you can keep the pressure on. The great thing about Ira is you only need really a 2-card hand to have a decent hand. You don't need a 3 or a 4-card hand. So these Flick Flacks, you throw 1 red Flick Flack down, keep the rest of your hand, maybe take 1 or 2 chip damage depending on what type of turn they're having, and then you go from there. If you're ahead in the game, then these also do really well for pitch, especially the yellow and blues, because if you pitch a 0 cost, your Kodachis get go again. Pitching a blue Flick Flack is really good because you probably still have, that means you still have 3 attack actions in hand, or 3 like offensive cards, and the Flick Flack can just be used for really good pitch. I'll use Head Jab and Leg Tap, both as good initial go again cards for my third attack. And then I put the Rise and Knee Thrust in here to go with my leg taps. It really feels really good when you Kodachi for 1, leg tap for 5 with Ira's buff, and then you Rise and Knee Thrust for 5 because it's been played after leg tap. So you're essentially going 1-5-5 with go again, and that's just awesome. And it's only used 2 resources, and you likely still have 1 card in hand, 1 card in arsenal, or at least 1 card in hand to try to help trigger that mask. And Rise and Knee Thrust might even trigger the mask itself. Razor Reflex is a really good attack reaction. Common. Anyone who's played this game for longer than a couple weeks probably has lost to a Razor Reflex. It's just a really good card. You can use it on your Kodachis, and you can use it on your attacks to give them go again. Like with a Rise and Knee Thrust, maybe it's not played after a leg tap. You Razor Reflex it, and now all of a sudden you have go again if it hit. This is also really good late game because if you can get the opponent down to 1 or 2 health, and they know you have Razor Reflexes, they have to start over blocking your Kodachis, because if they only block for 2 on a Kodachi, you just Razor Reflex, you win the game. So they kind of have to block for 4 or 5 on a Kodachi, which does not feel good for the other player, and just you keep the pressure on because they have to keep getting rid of so many cards. Sigil of Soul is pretty self-explanatory. Gain 6 life in a Blitz game is always a good thing, and you can play at instant speed, so you can play on your opponent's turn. If your opponent's not the hardest hitting hero in the world, maybe they only hitting you for 4 or 5, you just sigil, and then you don't block anything the rest of the turn. You maybe take 1 damage after you have already went up 3. 1 damage combined after like going back down 4, and you play out your next turn. So it's really useful for that. Torrent Tempo at red is really good. A 1 cost for 5 is just awesome. The blue Torrent Tempo I've been thinking about taking out lately, simply because it does block well. It's a 3. It does hit 1 for 3 with potential of go again, and you can Razor it. However, at blue, you can't really pitch it for your Kodachis because it's not a 0 cost. So your Kodachis aren't going to get go again. So I don't know if I really like this at blue. I'll probably sub it out maybe for a Lunging Press. Lunging Press has a little bit less defense at 2 defense, not 3, but you can use Lunging Press 1 to buff your attacks and 2 to pitch for Kodachis. So I'll probably end up swapping that out. But if you don't have Lunging Press, because not everybody has that card, Torrent Tempo is still really good. Crane Dance. So Crane Dance, Soul Bead Strike, and Whelming Gust Wave are all used for the same thing. They're 3 defense, they pitch, they're blue pitch, and they pitch 0, so you can use your Kodachis to get go again. And then if you absolutely have to attack with them, like Soul Bead Strike kind of threatens go again, which is nice. It makes the opponent have to block it. You can play Crane Dance after Soul Bead Strike, which gives, for this would be 2 with go again. No one really wants to block a 2 cost card. So there's definitely ways you can also attack with them. Whelming Gust Waves typically, though, just used for pitch and block. Then you have same thing with Flush Fist, same thing, 0 cost blue that you use to get your Kodachis to get go again, and it blocks for 3. You want to have a lot of blues in this deck. Typically, people have around 14 to 18 ish blues. I run 14, and I haven't had really any issues with resources. Obviously, you sometimes will get unlucky and draw friggin' 4 reds in your hand, but the good thing is because I add cards like Salt the Wound in there that also are 0 cost yellow pitch, they can be used for Kodachis as well. I normally don't have any issues. My last key card in the deck is Push the Point. If the last attack in the combat chain hit, Push Point gets +2. This is amazing with Ira because no one ever blocks the first Kodachi. So you Kodachi for 1, then you play Push the Point, which attacks for 7 with Ira's buff. You can give it go again, and then it's similar to an Enlightened Strike where you're hitting for 7, 8, and then you can continue with your turn. You also could Razor this and make it even more powerful. There's multiple things you could do with it, or use Lunging Press. So that's the deck. It's around 14 blues. A lot of offensive weapons. Again, your game plan is Kodachi for 1, Kodachi for 2, powerful attack. Or Kodachi for 1, super powerful attack, go again, and then keep going. And then your final line is like trying to use your leg tap to Rise and Thrust lines. Or maybe your leg tap to flying kick line or something like that where you're doing 2 mid-level attacks pretty consecutively. That's the basis of it. For sideboard, I know you can't sideboard Blitz, and I'm not saying these are sideboard cards, but these are other cards you can think about putting in the deck instead. If you have Command and Conquer, it's a great card, especially if their hero relies on offense, arsenal, sorry. And I would probably, honestly, I would sub out maybe one of the red non-go again cards. So I'd probably sub out like Torn a Tempo, or I would sub out Rise and Knee Thrust or something like that. Don't sub out a blue for it. Make sure you sub out a red in order to do it. And then it's just really useful for that. Or you could just add 1 in there just to make sure you have it. Super useful for that. Whirling Mist Blossom is really good, especially if you can couple it with an attack reaction, because if it's the second or higher chain link in a row to hit, you draw 2 cards. So it only hits for 2, and people really don't want to block only 2. If you play this on the second attack, it goes up to 3, and then you can use a Razor Reflex to give it 6. So either your opponent has to overblock and block for 5, which is 2 cards out of hand, minimum, maybe 3, depending on how their hand looks, or they're going to let you draw 2 cards. And if this is played on the third attack and they don't block it adequately, then you possibly could draw 3 cards, because 2 from Mist Blossom and 1 from Mask of Momentum. So it's a super situational card against the defender, and it's hard for them to really think through it. The last one is Pounding Gale. You could switch this out, like I said, for Torn and Tempo. Switch 2 of these in. It's also just a 1 cost for 5. So if you play this in the second attack, it's a 1 cost for 6. So it's a super good card. You can use Breaking Scales on it to give it +1 at the end of its attack, and then you could also snap it if you needed to. You can Snapdragon, Scalar all of these attacks except for Flying Kick and Command and Conquer. Everything else in this deck essentially has go again. And like I told you, I don't have the exact numbers, but I've played 50 games with Ira probably over the last 2 weeks, counting the Fab Discord and my local and stuff like that. At worst, in a matchup, playing several games, I went 50%. I think I went 3-3 against another Ira. Every other matchup I've had where I've played 2-3 games against the opponent, I've went 2-1, 3-1, 4-1. And I'm a relatively new player that's kind of like a mid-level player, if even that. So definitely something that a new player could use. If you want a new deck that's easy to build, you don't even need all the fancy cards. You can run base level common cards and do really well with, while also learning the mechanics of the game. Then Ira is definitely for you, and I highly suggest it. Yeah, I hope you all enjoy this deck tech. Again, one of my favorite ones to do because she's so good, so good. And with the upcoming Blitz season in November, it's someone you're definitely going to want to watch out for and possibly build. I think she's going to play really well into the Ice Heroes too, because making her discard 1 card or making her have cost 1 extra isn't going to hurt her a ton. Channel Lake Frigid hurts really bad. I had that happen to me. It doesn't completely negate her, but you have to kind of change your order of operations. You can't just Kodachi for 1, Kodachi for 2. You kind of got to go a little bit more aggressive. but it still doesn't completely negate her like I thought it would. So that's just my opinion. But yeah, I really like the deck. I'm gonna be playing it during Blitz season a lot, if I want to be competitive at any rate. So definitely try it out. Let me know what you think, good and bad. If you have time, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Go to another Flesh and Blood creator, do the same thing for them, so we can get more people seeing this game. And yeah, thank y'all so much for tuning in to TCG Talk, and I'll see y'all next time. Thank you.